Good evening. So we'll go into the lecture number 3, that is Introduction to Pattern Materials and Allowances. So the objective of this class is to know the functions of the pattern, various materials used for pattern making, characteristics of a pattern material, and various allowances provided during the pattern making and its purposes. So the keywords which will come in this class is solid pattern, split pattern, match plate pattern, cope and drag pattern. So that's on the pattern side which is prescribed in the syllabus. Allowance, we will have shrinkage allowance, machining allowance, distortion or camber allowance, pattern draft or taper allowance, that is draft or taper allowance, wrapping or shake allowance. So these are the words which we can see in this coming slides. So what is a pattern? So last class we have seen that you have attached you a video of a casting. I hope that So in that video you can see that a cavity has been created. So that cavity you are creating with the help of a pattern. So pattern is nothing but it is the approximate duplicate of the product. Patterns are normally made in the shape of the casting. Normal materials which we'll use for making the pattern is wood, plastic or metal. And you will make it as a single piece pattern or a multiple piece pattern. So a pattern is an element used for making cavities in the mold into which you are pouring the molten metal to produce a casting. So if you want to, the factors to be considered in the selection of pattern will be shape and size of the casting. The first and foremost point will be shape. Next will be the size of the casting. Then number of castings to be produced. Then method of molding, complexity of shape, and dimensional accuracy of casting. So it will comes in the order. The first one you have to think about the shape. Next one, the size of the casting. That is large. If the size is a larger size casting, you cannot use the wooden pattern for the entire section. You have to think of changing the condition. Then number of castings to produce. Say it is in the case of a mass production industry. So wooden pattern is the cheap and the common one which is available, but it has got its own drawbacks. So in that case, what you have to go for is that you have to go for metallic patterns. We'll come to it later. Then method of molding. What is a preferable method in which you are going for molding? So that also again depends what type of a pattern material you can use. Complexity of shape. If your shape is too complex, there are attachments you can attach the pattern to make the shape easier. And also the dimensional accuracy of the casting. That is, if you use a pattern made of wood, you will not get a good or final dimensional accuracy or tolerance in your casting. So you have to think about changing the material from wood to the other materials like metals or plastics. So we'll come to it. And what are the requirements of a good pattern? So a good pattern material, so the material should be cheap and readily available. The material should be light in mass and convenient to handle. It should be simple in design and ease of manufacture. If your pattern making itself is a complex in nature, then you can think about your casting will be extremely complex in nature. And it should have a good surface finish. And you should secure the desired shape and size of the casting. So it also a good pattern should have a high strength and a long life in order to make as many molds as required. So when we talk about the three fundamental materials, that is wood, metal and plastic, the wood will have certain issues in the last point. If you are using it for a continuous period, okay, it will end up with certain defects since wood will normally absorb the moisture. So when it absorbs the moisture, the dimensional accuracy, what you are expected from the casting, you will not be able to achieve. So you can see these are the common pattern materials which will be used in the foundries. The common one is used as wood. So you can use mahogany or teak or white pine, etc. So these are the common wood materials which you will use to make the patterns. Because wood is very easy to work and it is available abundant in nature. So but the drawback is that warpage is the main issue with the wooden pattern material. So you can overcome this by going for a metallic pattern. So brass or cast iron or aluminum or white metal. They are the common metallic materials which are used for making the pattern. The metallic materials, they are expensive to make. You have to spend more amount than a wooden pattern to make in the case of a metallic pattern, and but their life is much longer. The issues related to warpage will not occur in metallic pattern. But if you are going for a large or a mass production system, then only the metallic patterns will be feasible. The next one is plastic. So plastic material, you can use polyvinyl chloride or polyethylene, etc. That is a compromise between your wood and metal. But shaping a plastic mold into the required condition, that is a quite tedious task. The next one is called gypsum, or we normally call it as plaster of Paris. Normally they can make they are used for making plaster of Paris molds itself to make the products. So if we compare the pattern material characteristics, this will give you a overall idea about the materials like wood, metals and plastic. So machinability is excellent in the case of wood, whereas you can see the wear resistance is poor in the case of wood. You will have a fair strength for the wooden pattern, but you will have an excellent strength for the steel pattern. So you can see in certain conditions like resistance to corrosion and swelling, you can see plastic patterns are excellent in nature, whereas swellings wood, it is poor in nature. So accordingly, what or where you are using, you can choose the pattern material like this. So whether it's a wood or aluminum or steel or plastic or cast iron. So the basic factor in deciding is the machinability. So again, the machinability will be fixed with respect to your geometry of the casting. Okay, so if the geometry is too complex in nature, you have to go for multi-piece patterns either made from wood or from metals. So we'll see the type of patterns. These are the common types of patterns you can see in the Foundry. These are the list of the whole list of pattern is given. You can have single piece pattern, split piece or two piece pattern, multiple piece pattern, gated pattern, match plate pattern, cope and drag pattern, loose piece pattern, follow board pattern, sweep pattern, and skeleton pattern. So here you can see the first figure over here. This is a solid pattern where you can see this entire pattern is made from a single material, a single piece material, that is called the solid pattern. Whereas if I cut this into two halves and one half I can accommodate in the curb box and another half I can accommodate in the drag box, that is called split pattern. Again, if I am attaching the split pattern on the sides of a board, okay, this board is called match plate. So one side it can be taken to the cope, it can be taken to the drag, and the top I can take it to the cope. Likewise, if the two halves are fitted to a plate, so that is called match plate pattern. Then there is a next one that is called cope and drag pattern, where you can see all the runner, riser, gating system, sprue system, everything is accommodated in the match plate and they are kept in separate plates. That is one for cope and another for drag. Here the advantage is that cope and drag I can able to make it from different places and finally I am able to assemble it together. So these four are the common type of patterns which you can see or which you can use it in the Foundry. So they are solid pattern, they are split pattern, they are match plate pattern, and they are cop and drag pattern. So normally if I'm going for a shape like this, so to accommodate this shape in one box, it is not easy. That is, I can accommodate it and I can fill the sand. But if I want to get a mold cavity while removing this shape of a pattern, definitely the side walls of my mold will get damaged. That's why I am splitting this into two halves called as split pattern, so that one piece I can accommodate in one box and another I can accommodate in the another box. So that what happens is that I can able to easily mold them, and you can see there will be pins will be there. Okay, dowel pins will be there from on one pattern, and on the another half of the pattern there will be hole will be there. So after keeping one pattern with the hole initially on the drag box, and when you invert it to the other side using this pin, you can locate it on the exact shape and exact position. So that is the way the solid piece patterns will work. In the case of match plate, they are fixed on the both the sides. So easily you can able to make the mold by using this match plate pattern. Cope and drag, you can, it is again all the runner, riser, gating system, everything is fitted together. That is called the cope and drag pattern, where the patterns, where the mold, you can make it in two different places, and finally during the time of assembly, you can join together without any issues. So exactly the plate dimensions of this both will be same. So however you keep, you will get the mold cavity easily by using this cope and drag pattern. That is, if we see in the casting, there are types of casting industries are there. Some they will go for manual pattern, manual mold making. Some they will go for automated mold making. So for automated mold making, normally they will go for this cope and drag pattern for the easiness and for making the parts in a much shorter time. So these are the functional descriptions is given. I have already discussed with you, so I'm not going to read it. So these are the common patterns which you can use it in the, which you can see in the foundries. So in addition to this, you will have the other types of pattern called as split. We have already discussed. You will have follow board, you will have match plate, you will have loose piece, you will have sweep, and you will have skeleton pattern. So you can see over here, this is if I am cutting it in this center line, that is called as a split pattern. Okay, the B1 that is called as a follow board pattern, where you can see on a board itself already the shape of pattern has been made. So accordingly, when I remove this board, the mold cavity will be formed on my drag box. So that is called as the follow board pattern. So match plate pattern we have already discussed over there in the last class. Sorry, in the last slide. Loose piece pattern you can see over here. So for keeping a geometry like this, okay, in order to ensure a geometry like this, you can see over this, these areas are filled with sand. So what happens is that if I keep a complete shape of a pattern like this, when I remove the pattern, this sidewall also will come with the pattern as and when I am removing. So what is the situation is that this is one pattern and this is a loose piece which is attached to the pattern so that the exact geometry can be obtained. So when I remove, first I will remove this, then I'll remove this loose pieces. They are called as loose piece pattern. I have already added you a video for the lecture number 3 in your Amble. So if you go through it, you can see it how they are being removing these loose piece patterns, and all these patterns I have already added a video over there for your information. So for more details, you can click over there. You will get the idea how they are being removed off. The next one, this is called as sweep pattern, where you can see here this is a board. Okay, so this is a symmetric uniform symmetry objects I am making. So what happens is that on this revolving board, this shape will be rotated 360 inside my mold box. So what happens is that the cavity will be formed in that shape. So for a uniform symmetry objects, if I want to make, I can go for this sweep patterns. Okay, so these all things are not commonly used in the Foundry. The commonly used we have already discussed with you. And this is called a skeleton pattern. That is, if your object is if you want the casted product is of larger size, so making a pattern with the help of a wood or a metal is not feasible. So what you will do is that you will have a skeleton of that. You will keep a skeleton of that object, and over the skeleton you will fill the loam sand. You will have a board will be there. So the striker board when you are moving. So accordingly to the shape of your complete pattern, the loam sand will be fitted inside to it. So the loam sand will be stick together with some kind of sticking mechanism, so that when it is removed together, the cavity will exist over there. So these are the different types of patterns which you can see in the, or these are the special types of patterns which you can see in the casting industry. Now I'll come to the next topic, that is types of pattern allowances. Why a pattern requires an allowance? You can see many allowances are written over the shrinkage allowance, machining allowance, draft allowance, shake allowance, or distortion allowance. Why actually a casting, or why actually a pattern required allowance? That is, when you make the pattern, you are making it in the dimension of the casting. But you cannot make it exactly in the dimension of the casting. Some allowances which is shown here, you have to add that values to compensate these issues. And some you have to reduce so that your final casting will match to the required dimensional tolerances. The first and the foremost allowance you have to give to the pattern is shrinkage allowance. What is the shrinkage allowances? That is, when you pour a molten metal into your mold cavity, we are pouring it through the pour-in basin. When we pour through the pour-in basin, it will pass through your tapered down screw. At the end, you will have the choke. From the choke, you will have your gate. You will have the runner systems, and it will fill into the mold cavity. Once it is completely filled in the mold cavity through the riser, it will come up to the top position, indicates that all your mold space is completely filled. But what happens is that when you, after some time, you solidify it, when you try to solidify it, when you try to break the mold and take the component out, you can see that all the liquid which has come up through the riser will not be there on the riser or not on the runner sides. They have been again gone into the vacant areas, into the mold cavity to fill the vacant space. That is, liquid metal, when it solidifies, it will shrink. So in order to ensure, or in order to obtain the proper dimensions, you have to pour extra material into the mold. Okay, so that is called that the extra material whatever you are pouring, okay, or the extra dimension whatever you are providing on the pattern to compensate this defect, that is called as the shrinkage allowance. So liquid contraction or liquid contraction shrinkage, solidification shrinkage, and solid shrinkage. So when the liquid metal cools from its pouring temperature in a casting, it undergoes the following types of shrinkage. So first is liquid contraction shrinkage. So it occurs when the molten metal cools from the temperature at which it is poured to the temperature at which solidification occurs. So you will study a diagram called as time temperature or a diagram called cooling curve in the material science in chapter number 3. So there you can see that when you are pouring a molten metal, or a molten metal starts to solidify, it will starts to solidify at some temperature. And if it is a metal or alloy, you can see there are changes will takes place. We call it as nucleation, grain growth, etc. So I'm not coming into those terminologies right now. You will get a clear idea in material science. So when the solidification starts, the initial terminology we call it as nucleation. So a stable nuclei has to form. So it has got energy rules are there. Okay, we call it as Gibbs free rule, Gibbs energy rules, all are there. So I'm not coming to that part. So when a liquid starts to solidify, you can see automatically it starts to shrink. So if you don't provide the extra liquid material inside your mold cavity, you can see that your casting will have a lesser dimension than what you have expected. So you have to make the pattern in such a way that thus to compensate this, a larger size pattern you have to use, or you have to use the liquid reservoirs inside your mold cavity. So we have seen the blind risers in the class 2 lecture. We have seen the blind riser. Actually, this material inside the blind riser, okay, will be used to avoid this shrinkage defect. The next one is solidification shrinkage. So when the molten metal changes from liquid to solid state, again the solidification shrinkage will takes place. And third thing, from the initial portion of your start of the solidification to your final solidification also, solid shrinkage also will happen. So this occurs when the metal cools from freezing temperature to the room temperature. Okay, so the liquid and solidification shrinkage are taken care by riser. So liquid and solidification shrinkage are taken care by the riser. Solid shrinkage, in order to compensate the solid shrinkage, you have to go for a slightly larger size pattern. So how will you fix this size of the pattern? Is it same for all the metals and alloys? No, this will vary from metal to metal and from alloy to alloy. This is going to vary. So this is what a typical curve over here shown here. So height of a metal column, you can see initially this is the height of the metal column. You can see as and when it progresses, you can see it is reducing. So this is used to compensate your liquid and solidification shrinkage. And this excess amount you have to provide on the pattern. Okay, this excess amount you have to provide on the pattern so that the solid shrinkage can be avoided. And there is one material is there where it will not shrink at all when you are making the casting. Okay, so that is your job to identify which is that material, which is that metal which doesn't require any shrinkage compensation when you are going for casting process. So this is about the liquid. So liquid and solidification shrinkage, that will be taken care by the riser. Either the open riser or the blind riser will be taken care of. This is to use for compensating the solid shrinkage allowances in the metals. Yeah. So you can see again the same thing is already given over there. Again, you have to understand that this is not same for though it is same for the material, but when the size of the casting is varying, again the shrinkage allowance is going to vary. So that also you have to take into account while you are providing the pattern allowances. For all the materials it is like that. based on the dimensions also it is going to vary. So the next allowance, that is called draft allowance. What is this draft allowance? So that is, you can see over here, this is the shape of your pattern. Now when you are removing the pattern, hope you might have seen in the video, they will provide a tap on these edges. Okay, slightly they will provide a tap on these edges. Sometimes with a tap, if your sand casting has different properties, or if you use excess moisture or excess pressure on this, with a single tap you will not be able to remove the pattern. So what you will do is that you have to insert the draw spikes on the pattern. You will hammer it slightly towards the left, right, front, back, and then you will remove the pattern up. So what happens is that in that case, if you have a shape like this, these all edges are going to break if you don't make the pattern properly. So what you will do is that in order to remove the easy removal of the pattern from your product, you will make the pattern with tapered edges like this. So everywhere you can see a slight taper is provided. So using this taper, you are ensuring that there will not be no mold breakage will happen, or the mold will remain to its final dimension which you have intended. So a small draft angle you will be providing on the sides of your pattern walls so that it can be easily removed from your mold flowers to get your proper mold cavity. So such an allowance you are providing on the sides of your pattern for its easy removal, that is called as draft allowance. So a taper angle is provided on the vertical surface. This is done to prevent tearing in the mold when pattern is removed from the mold. Draft allowance varies with complexity of jobs. Inner details require greater allowance than outer surfaces. Again, you can see what type of a pattern material you are using. Again, based on the heights, this angle, the draft angle is going to vary. So same size you can see external surface and internal surface. There is a variation in the draft angle. So internal surfaces requires more draft angle than the external surfaces for its easy removal. So it you can see metal and plastic almost they have the same, almost they have a similar allowance, but wood it is having a different allowance in the case of making the mold. So you can see the draft guidelines. So in an expandable mold casting, draft facilities removal of pattern from the mold. So normal draft angle will be 1 degree for sand casting. So in the permanent mold casting, so draft angle will vary to 2 to 3 degrees. Again, this variations I shown you, it will differ from your inner surface as well as your outer surfaces. Yeah, the next one I'll come to the machining allowance. So the name itself is clear. It is given as machining allowance. So you can see in the bottom figure, this is the quality of the surface which you can obtain when you made a casting by using the casting process. So you can see the cast surface, die casting, you will have an RMS value of 20 to 120. So this is how the surface looks like. If you are going for a normal ferrous green sand, you can see the RMS value is 560 to 900. So these three. And if it is of a normal non-ferrous sand, it is 300 to 560. So you can see that in this case, the surface is not at all smooth. You can see the surface has irregularities. So if the surface is irregular, you can see the appearance of your product or your part is not as good. And you can see that based on further applications, that is if it is a shaft or if you want to fit a bearing on a shaft, you cannot fit it on a surface like this. If you have fitted like a surface, it will have more issues will be coming over there. Its life of your product is going to down. So what you have to do is that you have to go for machining so that you can see that fine finish you are able to achieve. The finish values are shown over here. So the fine finish you can able to achieve if you are going for machining. So what surface you want, what surface finish you want. So you have to provide extra material on your mold so that this quantity of the 1 mm or 2 mm or 3 mm or 5 mm or 10 mm material will be removed on your surface so that you will achieve its high finish. So I given you some for operations here: turning, vertical milling, horizontal milling, etc. There are fine machining operations are also there called as grinding, lapping, etc. So in all these cases, you will get extremely fine surface textures on your product. So for that, you have to have extra space should be there on the mold to compensate this allowance. So for that purpose, what you have to do is that you have to make a little or a larger pattern you have to use for making the mold in order to compensate this machining allowance. So again, you can see that this is also not same for all the material. Machining allowance will vary from material to material and again vary from size, that is bore or surface or cope side. So whatever, wherever you are using, this is going to vary. So machining allowance will again vary on whatever the material you are using. So we can see for the cast iron, the dimensions when you are varying how the allowance has to be provided. So it is again based on what finish you have to achieve, whether it is a normal finish or super finish. So in all those conditions, that additional material you have to provide it on the pattern. The next allowance, that is called distortion allowance. So in the case of distortion allowance, what is that? I just want a shape of a casting like this. Okay. So when I made a pattern like this, I made a mold cavity, I made a casting, my shape of your final casting is like this. This is called distorted casting. So when it solidifies, the I section changed its shape. So now what to do? If I want to make a shape like this, okay, what I have to do is that I have to make a cambered pattern in the opposite direction like this. Now, as the metal solidifies, it will come approximately into the shape like this. So such an allowance you are providing on special shaped castings to achieve its dimensional tolerances or conditions, that is called distortion allowance. That is, during solidification, casting get distorted due unequal cooling results in internal stresses. So this is the reason the cooling condition is not uniform, which causes the internal stresses, the material to bend like this. So if you make a mold, you can see that the heat will be transferred from the outside surface easily. So this is the area where these are the areas where the cooling is initially taking place. So as when it is cooling to that case, you can see that there is a liquid metal is not present over here. So the mold tends to make a shape like this. So in order to avoid a distortion like this, you will provide an opposite camber like this or like this on the casting so that you will achieve a final shape like this. That is providing suitable allowance on the pattern called camber or distortion allowance. That is inverse reflection you are providing on the pattern so that your final casting will resembles like this. It will not go like this. So you have to go for a shape like this or a shape like this to get the final casting like this as the intended product. The third one is wrapping or shake allowance. So far these all things are positive allowances. So the wrapping or shake allowance, I already told you, even if you don't have a T-like structure or something like that, you have to hit the side walls. You will hit the pattern towards the side walls to remove the easily removal of the pattern from the mold cavity. So when you are hammering towards the side, don't think that I'm not using any metallic hammers, only wooden mallets will be used. So slightly the size will increase. So that increase in the size I have to take into account, and a smaller size I have to reduce as wrapping or shake allowance when I am going for casting or when I am going for sand molding process. So these are some of the pattern allowances which are normally used, or normally you can normally seen in any kind of sand molding process. So I'll just give you a glimpse of the steps in the sand casting process. So initially you can see this is a step 1 in the sand casting. This is my drag box. So inverted drag box I kept on a neat wooden table. This is my pattern. So you can see pattern has a flat end which is supporting on my board on this area. So this is a split pattern. So split pattern I kept it like this. So this flask is normally in the inverted position. So drag is initially kept it in the inverted position. As a step 2, what I will use is that this is sieves. Using sieves, I am pouring the sand, your green sand, into your mold flask. So to ensure that only a proper grain sand only will pass through the sieves, so that I can able to control the size and shape of the sand grains in over here. So using the sieves, I am filtering the sand. So the sand will be filled in this area. Step number 3, you can see that this is called as rammer. There are wooden rammers are there, metallic rammers are there. Using the rammers, the sand is neatly packed around my pattern. Completely it is packed. You can see that now I have inverted my drag box. Initially the pattern was facing the flask side. Now I have kept it to the top side. The next box, cope box, I am placing it on the drag box, and I will join these two by using nut and bolt assemblies. So you can see the next half of the pattern is also kept on the cope box. Already the sand filled area you can see over here. These are my sprue pins. So sprue pins, normally one is used as down sprue. The next one you will use it as for the riser. The tapered one having larger dimension we will use as a down sprue. The straight cylindrical one you will use it as riser. So sprue, you have to keep it near to your pattern in any easy location for the metal to flow into the pattern. And riser, you will keep normally in the topmost portion of your pattern. Okay, the topmost portion of your pattern, if it is this or this, that is the portion where normally you will keep your riser. So this sprue you will keep it any place, convenience place, for that the metal can easily flow into the mold cavity, whereas riser you will be fitting in the topmost projection of your pattern. So now this is filled again by using the sieves. Again by using the sieves, the entire area is completely filled with the green sand. Again I have rammed. You can see the down sprue and runner will rises of my cope box. The entire area is rammed. Everything is flattened smoothly. Okay. So now two boxes are filled with molding sand. You have patterns inside. The down sprue and runner is also over there. So what you have to do is that you have to cut a pour-in basin around your down sprue, and riser you have to remove it from the mold in the next stage. So once it is removed, you can see the impression is shown over here. So these are the pattern. Now pattern, once you remove the pattern, you can see the mold cavity will come on this place. And these are the area where you can see this is the down sprue which I have kept. from this portion, I can cut a channel into this mold cavity that is normally called as gates. And if your casting is larger in size, you have to cut multiple gate entries into the system where you will connect a common runner. Okay, you will connect a common runner. So in every casting, you will only have mostly you will have only one pour-in basin and you will have a downspout. From the multiple gates will be connected to the component based on its size. So in that case, a channel will be connected, that is called as your runner one. So in the next stage, you can see the patterns are removed. All the patterns from both the sides are removed. You can see here this half of the pattern has a pin and here this has a hole. The hole one will be initially fitted into your drag box. The pin one, you will be fitting it in the cope box. So when it comes in the inverted condition, it will exactly match on these holes and you will get the final cavity without any distortions. If this location pin is not there, this may get shifted and finally you will get a distorted casting. In that case, the casted product will be a waste or you have to spend amount to machine it to get it to the required shape. So these are the pins which are used to locate your split piece pattern in its position. Now next step, you can see I am cutting the runner and I am cutting the gates in the mold flask. Basically, this will be done only in the drag box. Cope, I will not do anything. Drag box only, runner or gate will be cut. Please note that only on the drag box only runner or gates will be cut. Riser, the open riser will normally exist in the cope box. Okay, open riser will exist normally in your cope box, whereas gates etc. will come only in this drag box. So I have cut the gates. Again, these mold flowers are joined together using the ladle. Okay, the molten metal is melting in the furnace. Types of furnaces are available. Each metal whatever you are using, you have to use different types of furnaces to extract or to get the solid material into the molten metal condition like this. And using the hand ladle or mechanized ladle, you will pour the molten metal through the pour-in basin. So it will fill the mold cavity, and in the riser you will be able to know that this is filled or not. Now when after some time the solidification will begin, the solidification will end. Each metal will solidify based on solidification time you have to calculate. We'll come to it later. Okay, solidification time calculation will come to it later. There is a equation is there called as Chauvarnier's rule. So based on the Chauvarnier's rule, you can calculate the solidification time for each metal or mold, whatever each material casting, whatever you are making. So this is what your final product, you will get it from here. So this is your final product. These are the runners or the extra area which you have provided on the material for the metal to flow. So these things has to be cut off. Okay, these things has to be trimmed off or cut off. And this sand will go back again into the mold after recycling process. So this cut off part normally will be taken out from your industry. Normally it will be going for non-destructive testing process where any internal flows. First it will go, you will use the visual inspection to see any external damage is there. If no external damages like cracks are not seen, you will be sending this for NDT. So NDT, they will ensure that inside the material there is no damage occurs, like voids or shrinkages are not there inside to the material. So that we will ensure, and the product will be going for the next set of stages. So these are the casted component. It is just extracted from the mold. So this is with runners and risers is shown over here. So these all parts will be removed off. Actually, this location is wrong. This will be kept in this normally either this flange or this portion to ensure that it is filled. So this is not a good practice. This is right. the right location of your riser, the open riser will be on the top extended surface of your product. So that's the presentation.